Hello, and welcome to round two of our PioBiz competition. My name is Heather Miller. I'm an adjunct faculty member here at Marietta College, and I'm assisting in the entrepreneurship program this spring. This is the final session of the 2020-2021 Riverview Credit Union Mid-Ohio Valley Entrepreneurship Expo at Marietta College. I would like to take a moment to thank this year's Mid-Ohio Valley Entrepreneurship Expo title sponsor, the Riverview Credit Union, as well as our in-kind platinum sponsor, Clutch MOVEE, our gold sponsor, the Swindeman Agency and McDonough Foundation, our silver sponsors, Premier Bank and Tech Growth Ohio, and our bronze sponsors, Trademark Solutions and Tenney and Associates. We would not have been able to put on this year's Entrepreneurship Expo without the support of all of our amazing sponsors. To get us started, I'll provide a quick overview of today's program. Each of our student competitors will have 7 minutes to present to our judges, followed by 5 minutes of Q&A with our judges. Our judges will have an opportunity to introduce themselves after the student presentations are complete. With that, I would like to welcome our first competitor to the stage. First up today is Putnam's Palace.
Hello, friends. And for this year's round two of PioBiz Competition, I, River Perry, have brought to you the idea of Putnam's Palace, an arcade diner for the students of Marietta College. First, let's start with the problem that I'm seeking to solve. I've noticed that students on campus, in the Marietta College campus specifically, have found a lack of entertainment over the semester, and they also find themselves not currently satisfied with the food systems that the college implies, as well as business students of Marietta College not having anywhere to put into practice what they've learned in their classes. With these problems, I came up with an idea for a way to solve all of these in one nice, neat bow. But first, let's discuss who has this problem. As previously stated, it's not just the Marietta College students, but it's also the Marietta College staff, with most of them also eating and spending time on campus in between classes and their own work. From ages 18 to 35 is the typical student body age. However, of course, these ages have a few outliers, and if you include the staff, things go up and down. And these are currently on-campus students and commuter students, as well as staff that live near or close to campus and commute as well. But my idea is Putnam's Palace. We want to put the PAL in Palace. So the three main points of Putnam's Palace are the fact that it is a student-centric bias, it is a new entertainment and food location on the campus of Marietta College, and it provides new work-study opportunities for the students of Marietta College. The first point is the student-centric bias, because it provides a safe and entertaining place for the students to spend time on campus. Me personally being a commuter student, I often find myself unsure with what to do with the 1 or 2 hours that I have between my classes. Sure, I can go spend it in some common areas, but with the current COVID pandemic, that's become less plausible. And with the focus on not just entertaining, but feeding the students of Marietta College, I've also decided to employ a way for the students to decide what will be served at Putnam's Palace through online surveys, and also include extra student hours for the students of Marietta College to where they have Putnam's Palace to themselves and themselves only. And the students from Marietta College will run the business through a 301, 401 class or through a club, which would earn them practicum credits through the business foundation. My second point would be to entertain and feed the students of Marietta College. This will be a food option for late at night. It will be open later than the current late night option on campus, which is known as Pit Stop, which simply serves snack-ish food. This would be a proper meal type restaurant for the students, because a lot of students find themselves working late at night on projects. This would be a way that they could still ensure that they can get food that would fit into their schedule. And using the Marietta College way of gaining food through our food plans is meal swipes, and we plan to use those here as well. However, also accepting cash and card from commuters and from the public, which it will be briefly open to. It will provide entertainment of all kinds, specifically focusing on video games such as arcade cabinets, computer games, consoles, things such as that, but there will also be rentable rooms for perhaps not students, but local community leaders or even teachers to rent out rooms for not necessarily just entertainment, but perhaps just a change of scenery from their typical teaching room, which has a proven impact on student learning. And there will also be events held at Putnam's Palace for a little extra pizzazz. things like video game tournaments, costume contests, karaoke night. But all these things need to be orchestrated by someone. And I decided, instead of simply putting it up to the college, give a place for the business students to learn more about business and to put into practice what they've learned, balancing books, dealing with the public, keeping both shareholders and their ideas intact, teaching students how to adapt to the different situations that running a business will give them, especially one in the food industry, which is arguably one of the more difficult ones to maintain because of the restrictions and laws put on food and the serving of food. Here, the students will handle both the investors, which would be seen as the college, as the main shareholder and the main investor, and also working closely with partners, perhaps local business owners or local restaurant owners would come in and talk to the students and give them ideas on what they think should be the next step forward. The students may then take this idea and work with the presenter, or simply take the information and work on their own to guide them in a new way, to show them how they could be running the business. And I've done extensive research on whether this would be wanted and facilitated at Marietta College, and 98% of the students and staff that I interviewed found themselves unhappy with the current food systems on campus, which, when I learned that some of the staff also eat on campus, I was a little surprised. I'd only ever pictured that students would be the one using campus facilities, but occasionally professors and other staff do as well. And 95% of those that I interviewed also agreed that there should be more to do on campus, that they feel like there's not enough to the campus, that it's just classrooms and dormitories, not enough to bring in new, fresh blood. 85% of the students have found themselves bored on campus, either locked away in their rooms studying or simply playing video games or scrolling through social media, which can have a negative impact on a lot of people's mental health. And with 66% of all interviewees agreeing that the business students should need a place to practice what they've learned.
I was interested in the competitive landscape. So are there other places, either on campus or near to campus, that do provide any of these things, particularly sort of the gaming environment? And secondly, have you looked into other universities that do student-led enterprises of this nature, which is very interesting, but I'm wondering if you'd looked at those comparables.
Yes, in fact, I have looked into competitions and other things to model after. I have looked at actually a very interesting thing that two students known as Justin Weinberg and Igor Belyaev have started, called Chem 101, which I know sounds like a class, but it's actually a studying app for STEM students, specifically constructed for them and ran out of their home college. There's also the eGamers Cafe. I believe it was somewhere in Kentucky, a student-led e-cafe. It wasn't specifically solicited by the college, but it was college students that started the idea. And as for your first question for competition on campus, there isn't really any local arcades. The closest one would be a 15-20 minute drive to Vienna, which there is a flashback arcade up there, which I've been to and is very interesting. There is also a few food options on campus, but none open later than midnight, I believe.
So with the land and in the location where you put the building, have you figured out what that's going to cost and what you'd be able to, if they'd be willing to do that?
I'm still currently in talks with some local landowners around the Marietta College campus. There is one very nearby to the McCoy dormitories that I'm looking at. However, the small size might prove to be a problem. I'm still waiting on a return call from him on his final decided price, and I have not, in fact, gotten to the stage where I can ask the administration of Marietta College how much they would be willing to put down to support this project, although I am working my way there.
What is the current, because I'm not sure if this is just a COVID-related situation that you're saying that there's not enough going on campus and that the activities are limited. I haven't been to campus for a while, so I don't really know the layout of that. I just remember that there were some interesting things happening the last time that I visited, and I'm wondering, is this something that's specific to the pandemic time, or is this something that's been going on? And how many people were in your interview group that you talked about?
I interviewed roughly roughly 200 students. I believe the exact number was 238 students and roughly 60 staff members. It was an anonymous poll, so I didn't have any specifics, but I believe those were the numbers. And I had interviewed some students that have been studying there from before the pandemic, and they said that most of the entertainment was event-based, and none of the entertainment was a consistent thing. So there would be special days that they would look forward to, but nothing that they could consistently go to. The only entertainment that I could find locally was either shopping, which is spending money college students don't have, or eating, which is spending more money, and that's only fun if you have friends to go do it with.
Your plan is that this is going to be an off-campus facility, and that I understood correctly is that sometimes it's open to the general public, but primarily it's off-campus and meant only for students?
Yes, it will be off campus, but I don't want to make it too far off campus to where it's inaccessible for any of the students who don't have cars or any sort of motor transport. I kind of want to make it a safe distance, like how the music hall is from campus. It's a little bit of a walk, but it's not too far.
We're going to go ahead and invite our next presenter to start preparing for their presentation. Next up this evening, we have Art on the Move.
My name's Allison Barnes. I'm a junior studying entrepreneurship and leadership, and my business is Art on the Move. We're going to start with a little bit of a story here. So imagine this. You're a busy mom, you work a full-time job, you're in the PTO, you're in charge of snacks for your daughter's soccer games. You check your calendar for the weekend, and you find that you have a few free hours. You have no meetings, your partner's taking the kids to their practices, so you're trying to figure out something to spend your time doing. You used to love art, but you don't have any supplies. So when you run errands, you stop at the craft store. You have no idea what to buy, so you overbuy just in case. You get home and start thinking, and you've lost your creativity. You have no idea what to paint, have no idea how to paint it, and you decide it might be easier to just sign up for a class. You look it up and find that most of the art classes available are multi-weekend commitments. So you think a little bit more on it, and you're afraid that you might feel pressured in those classes, and the cost might not be worth it. You're not confident enough to take the risk. And that's where Art on the Move comes in. We work to remove the barriers to art. Some of our features are that we come to your neighborhood or your home. We do the traveling, so you don't have to. We cater to various skill and confidence levels, and there's no required commitment, meaning that the learners have a choice to follow a multi-series workshop or attend just one. We have public or private workshops, and we want to host special events, including parent-child workshops, couples date nights, and girls' night workshops. Also, you leave the workshop with your own beautiful painting. We cover all supplies, tools, setup, tear down. It's all on us. You leave the workshop with more confidence, and all our instructors are experienced artists with a passion. So the people I'm looking to target are women 25 to 55, typically mothers who are socially involved and definitely interested in art. I'm choosing this demographic for personal reasons. This is just the group of people that I want to work with. Their needs and opinions are shaping Art on the Move, not the other way around. I conducted some research over the past couple weeks, and I found what gap there is to be filled within the market. And I also was able to find some other competitors. I saw what they charged price-wise, what the length of their classes were, and some description of the experiences that participants had. I interviewed some women between the ages of 25 and 55, and I found out some pretty interesting things, including who is not my target customer, what artistic interests that age group have, and what additional barriers to creating art there are. Here we have a slide comparing Art on the Move to competitors. As you can see, Art on the Move has the highest convenience and the lowest fear of judgment. Psychological safety is the idea where you don't feel pressured, you aren't scared of judgment, or you're not afraid of negative reaction. And Art on the Move really keys in on that and wants to focus on making everyone feel psychologically safe. Cost structure is broken down into expense per person, which is $30 on the high end. My interviewee said that between $30 and $80 was reasonable for this service, and the average of their answers was $42.50, meaning that this is profitable based on the customer's perception of value. I am planning to host 3 different types of events. The first is community events, which is going to make up about 50% of the revenue. These are where individuals or a small group can come in to a public place. Community members are welcome, it's a public venue. About 40% of the revenues are going to be from contracted events, which are where a company would contract Art on the Move to come in and do team building exercises or an employee treat or even a company lunch. And 10% of the revenues will come from private parties, which is a medium to large group of friends, family, whoever you want, held at a private venue or a home. The resources that I need already have. I already have most of the human capital. I have qualifications. I have 5 years of experience in selling art, which shows that I both have sales experience and skills in art, as well as a lifelong experience in art. So I understand the processes, the emotions, the development that goes into it. I also have customer service experience from my retail job. I have networks, the Marietta College Business and Economics Department, my high school art teacher who I still talk to, and also the artists in residence from my high school who I also still talk to. I know any of those people would be more than happy to help me if I asked. The things that I do need are physical capital: paints, canvases, brushes, cleaning materials, surface protection materials. I need a way to store the materials in between events when I have to store them. And I also need some funding for behind the scenes things such as travel, a vehicle, marketing, and initial rental space expenses.
Being Art on the Move, what type of places would you go to? You're not going to have a physical places, from what I can tell. What's your approach to that and the types of places you would use? I know you've said you did some corporate stuff or things like that, or contracted things.
It really depends on what type of event. For community events, it could be at a park. If they have a shelter house, there's different event venues that would be great for community workshops. If it's private, I would be able to set up a workshop in somebody's house or backyard. And then if it's corporate, that's kind of a mix of the two. If the company has a space for it, I can set up there or find another event venue somewhere.
So very artistic presentation. I liked it. You had said that you had done some market research and you'd found out some people that you wouldn't be serving. So I was interested in hearing, the lessons learned. And also you were talking about sort of events, painting parties and that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if in addition to sort of, women in the home, did you research other potential client samples?
So with the first question, the people that I learned are not my target customer. I need to do a little bit more research into this, but there seems to be a threshold of how socially involved the people are, because I interviewed somebody, she was so great, but she had so much going on in her life. She seriously just did not have time for a service like this. There's also a woman I interviewed. Her kids were right in this age range where she has to be with them every step of the way. And I just felt like they weren't the people I was looking at for this business. And then the second question, can you kind of reiterate that a little bit?
Yeah, so it's sort of, in addition to the women who you might bring it to their home, I mean, you talked about events, about art parties, all of which might have a much broader participation than, women in the 35 to 55 age range. So I'm wondering if you did any market research on that and, whether there are competitors out there or whether you thought that was a pretty big gap in the market.
What I found was that most of the art classes out there are either geared towards children or for professional adults. There was really no classes that I could find that were just meant hobbyists that were adults. I really didn't do any research on other people outside of the women 25 to 55, so I can't speak on that right now.
I'm going to shut up, but I just want to say, are you familiar with the sip and paint model? It's often a fundraiser.
It sounds familiar.
Okay, you might want to look that up. I mean, it's sort of fun art while drinking wine, but it is something that age range does find appealing. So you might look at that as a part of your competitive analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. It was very nicely done, and I enjoyed watching that. I think you did a nice job in presenting the information. But one of my questions is, because you segmented it into the community events, the contracted events, and the private events, do you really feel that all of your target market for each type of those events is the same target market? Or do you think that there may be, are you going to only target, for example, corporations that have women or that are doing women's events? Or are you going to broaden that? Is there an opportunity to broaden that to other people? Or is this something that just won't appeal to, say, men in that company?
I want this company to be open for everyone. I'm obviously not going to turn people away, but art, unfortunately, is a kind of gendered industry. luxury and it's something that's seen as feminine. So a lot of adult males will not take those steps to take an art class because it's seen as girly.
Next up, we have Muddy Hands Play Studio.
I'm Sydney Steck, and this is Lily Krajewski. We're both psych majors and art enthusiasts. Our idea is Muddy Hands Art Therapy Studio. So our target audience for our studio is going to be older adults. These people are potentially experiencing forms of cognitive decline, such as Alzheimer's and dementia. We also are looking at groups that are looking to improve their mental health. Additionally, we are looking at individuals who have potential disabilities that might be interested in the benefits of art therapy. Our research centered around women, white women, particularly in the age ranges of 65 to 70, because those are the age ranges that usually you will see cognitive decline start or take its strongest effects. We found that these groups of women are interested in improving their general health and wellness. They enjoy participating in activities that can ease their mind and relieve stress. They enjoy group activities and group socialization, and they are most importantly interested in trying new activities related to art. Our idea is basically a ceramic studio that is a creative and social outlet for these older adults and individuals that might be experiencing some sort of decline, and that the therapeutic benefits of the art will be beneficial towards them. We would be working with local organizations such as like old living homes and retirement homes, as well as like assisted living care centers. We would then offer bisqueware, which is plates, mugs, and figurines that are already pre-made and ready to be glazed. Then we would have glazes to then do that. We would have fresh clay, which is what is shown in the picture, that you can either hand build or throw. And then classes, which could be either travel or stationary and be able to move for those who have disabilities that might not be able to make it to a physical studio. So we would cater to them. This is important because art therapy improves memory, things like critical thinking skills, and attention. It also eases a lot of cognitive stressors, which is like anxiety, depression, aggression, kind of just calm everything, give them an outlet to put all their emotions into. Our business canvas, there is a lot here, so I'm just going to briefly highlight the things that I would like to draw your attention to on here. The first thing I would like you to look at is the customer relationships and this idea of get, keep, and grow. So we would like to get customer relationships through our channels here, such as advertising potential customers, connecting with assisted living and retirement homes, and working to develop those relationships, and additionally reaching out to family members that care for these older adults that might benefit from this service. The next thing I'd like to draw your attention to is our key resources. A big one here is going to be our education and certifications. So for Sydney and I, that's going to be getting certifications in art therapy. And for me specifically, it's going to be continuing my education and getting a master's in counseling and art therapy in order to bring in the therapy side of our art therapy business. Additionally, we will eventually need a physical studio, a building to conduct classes in, materials for these classes, and some sort of branding in order to advertise for ourselves. The next thing is our revenue streams. So we had the idea that in order to draw in customers, we would offer a first class almost like as a trial for free in order to gain interest and just get them into the classes themselves. As for the actual classes themselves, we would have the art side of things, which would be on a pay per use of materials sort of thing. And then art therapy itself would be a pay per session, which would include a materials usage, like to sell their work in the studio. The last thing that I would like to mention on here is the cost structure. Briefly, it's the cost of supplies such as materials and a kiln that is involved in working with clay, and then eventually a future studio space, but initially we plan to be portable and travel to where clients are needing us most. Here we have our estimated cost structure. This is looking at materials specifically. As you can see, most of our money would be spent on clay, and we estimate about $30 per person for materials. Additionally, we will have to pay for a kiln, which is going to be about $1,000, but that is a one-time cost and doesn't need to be continually paid. Next here, it looks like a lot of information. So on the left, we have art with therapeutic benefits, which is going to just be the art side of it, estimating about $65 per person. And say we have 50 clients per month. This is what it would look like. Very rough numbers, just to give you a general idea of what we're looking at. On the right here is going to be the art therapy, the more professional therapeutic side of it. Obviously, the price for this would go up with an estimated $165. And just so you can easily compare, we kept the attendance to 50 participants a month. Again, very
estimated rough income statements. As a note at the bottom, there's no taxes included in any of this.
It's also, we have all of these in a Excel spreadsheet, so we can always change the numbers and play around with it just so we can see what other potential changes could offer. This is a milestone map, which is just kind of a rough overview of what we kind of have planned for our future. Currently, and we kind of want to seek out connections with older adults in the area so we can volunteer at local retirement homes or assisted living facilities just to kind of get familiar and talk to older adults, because that's going to be your clients. You kind of want to know how to interact with them. Next, we would want to graduate with our majors and maintain those connections with older adults and the people who care for them, because the people who care for them know them really pretty well.
I really like this. The concept is very interesting. And I actually have been involved in the world of art for many years as an entrepreneur. And now I have a health related startup. So, it's combining these two things, which I think is a very good tactic. But my question for you is that 165 a month number, is that per session, or is that a monthly fee that you charge, and how many sessions do they get for that?
That number is a very rough estimate based on other services that are offered. So a normal therapy session can range from $100 to $250. So we kind of picked a middle number that seemed as a good jumping off point just to get an idea of what things we're looking at. And we were thinking that this would be a per session because it would include the use of materials that come in addition to the therapeutic side of it.
Just to follow on with that, then, are you planning to align yourself with any health insurance companies? Are you planning to accept health insurance plans, for example, or is this going to be paid strictly out of pocket? And how often do you think that these people would be coming to you?
We were planning on accepting insurance just because it's a health benefit thing here. Health insurance would be a big part of this because we also are working with assisted living facilities and things like that. That money probably would come more directly from the facilities themselves.
With assisted living places and all that, have you had experience in those? Are you familiar working with them?
I volunteered there before, but nothing as a profession wise, just every once in a while.
And my experience is limited to family members that have lived in assisted living communities.
Have you ever spent time at the Huntington Museum of Art?
I don't know if I've been to that one exactly, but I like museums, so maybe.
Yeah, it has a huge pottery thing. And then the other one you want to look at is the Parksville Arts Center, because it has a huge operation in the pottery area. They have people come in all over just for that area. With them, it's a physical location, but you can go to the senior centers and stuff like that.
The question I have for this is, one of your biggest investments is going to be the kiln. What do you see as your percentage of business? What are you anticipating? Is it going to be 50-50 offsite therapy or 50% in-house? Because that's, what's really going to be the focus? Is it more external work or in-house work?
I think at the start, it's probably going to be more us traveling because we need to build up a client base in order to afford an in-place studio and be able to hold classes. So I think at the start, we're looking at more going to these assisted facilities and things like that before we can actually have a physical studio where we help host classes.
Have you thought about, is there a caregiver portion to this? How about the fact that some of these folks may need a caregiver with them?
There's no issue with having a caregiver with them at the same time. I think that is totally an acceptable thing to assume that they might need someone. And we would like to cater to the people who need it, which often are the ones who might be impaired.
Next up, we have the Car Library.
Hello, judges. My name is Austin McQuarrie. I'm a junior actuarial science major, and my idea is called the Car Library. In a Kessler Foundation survey, 25% of respondents under $15,000 annual household income identified transportation as a significant problem. Transportation is vital to obtaining access to jobs and other opportunities, but transportation is not always readily available for Americans living in low-income homes. I grew up in such a home, and my family was unable to help me get a car. I felt trapped because although I was more than willing to raise money to buy myself a car, I did not have the transportation to help me do that. My parents couldn't drive me, and I lived in a rural area with no public transportation. I was not alone in this struggle. This problem not only hurts the ability for the poor to lift themselves out of poverty, but it also hurts the economy since able-bodied workers are unable to participate in the labor force. These are the various demographics that often face this transportation barrier. Often forgot about are the overnight workers. About 17% of workers in large metropolitan areas work late shifts, and these workers earn $5,000 less than the median income of daytime workers due to their shift shift, they can't get access to public transportation, and they often cannot afford to buy a car. The current solutions to this transportation problem are insufficient. Public transportation exists, but only in urban areas, and it can often be unreliable or completely impractical, as mentioned with overnight workers. Uber is another option, but it is a costly one for low-income people and incredibly expensive and or non-existent in rural areas. In terms of getting a car, renting is an expensive short-term option, and buying a car with a loan is usually denied to those with low income and credit. And the places that offer loans for these people charge rates as high as 30%, and more than half of these loans default in the first year, leading to repossession. A car library would be a nonprofit organization designed to solve this problem by temporarily giving cars directly to the people that need them. This solution would lift low-income households out of poverty, reduce government dependency, and strengthen the economy. To better understand the feasibility of this solution and how it could realistically work, I conducted 2 interviews. The first interview was with Miranda Lowe, an officer for Workforce West Virginia. She serves 9 counties in West Virginia and helps connect hundreds of unemployed adults and youth to employers. The second interview was with Bill Wilkinson, founder and leader of Mid-Ohio Valley Employment. They currently help staff 40 to 50 companies in the Mid-Ohio Valley. Both Miranda and Bill told me that transportation was the biggest issue that their clients face. They have described to me how their organizations have sought grants to help deal with this problem by creating contracts with ride-sharing companies and expanding public transportation. Workforce West Virginia in particular offers mileage reimbursement to employees and free bus passes, but these solutions have only put a small dent in a very significant problem. Bill Wilkinson described individuals who were only able to accept opportunities within biking or walking distance, a solution that limits their ability to work and is completely impractical in the winter months. He also described to me how otherwise qualified individuals could not accept overnight positions because of the lack of available transportation. He has even considered investing in a large van so he could travel and pick up these employees as if he were operating a bus. When I introduced the idea of a car library, both were deeply intrigued and thought that such a service could benefit many of the people they help. There are other nonprofit car donation charities across the country, and the first and perhaps most successful one is called Good News Garage in the New England area. The organization has helped provide over 5,000 cars to families since 1996 with great success. After surveying the recipients, they found that 70% were able to obtain a better job, 56% no longer received government assistance, 53% pursued education they couldn't have otherwise, 70% saw their household income increase, and 63% said that their car enabled their children to participate in after-school activities. The model is similar to a Habitat for Humanity model, which limits car availability to the most in need, such as single mothers and the disabled. This, however, leaves out other demographics facing transportation issues. From this research, the car library should have 2 segments. The first segment will be the Habitat for Humanity model we just discussed, in which the most deserving will receive donated cars for free as long as they fulfill eligibility requirements common in these programs, including proof of employment and insurance. This model has proven to be effective in other programs, and I believe if properly implemented here, it would also be successful in the Mid-Ohio Valley. The second segment will be the library rent-to-own model, in which individuals that have impractical transportation options would borrow a car for a specified time period in which they will accumulate funds for either buying that car or buying their own car. There will be automatic withdrawals from their paycheck throughout the time period to save towards the car purchase. And based on my conversation with Bill, there's also a great chance that employers will offer a match for these employees who stay with them throughout the entire period of the car library. At the end of this time period, the recipient can either leave the savings with the library to purchase the car that they're already driving, or they can return the car for somebody else to use and use the savings to purchase a car of their choice. The reason for this rent-to-own model is so that the charity can be self-sustaining, keeping a ready supply of cars either because they are returned or paid for. The costs associated with running this nonprofit include car purchases from dealerships, land for a car lot, staff to process applications and run the business, and various other expenses including free towing service, car maintenance, and insurance. The revenues associated with the car library include car and cash contributions from private citizens, dealerships, and government grants, as well as the savings account contract held by the library. The donations element will help start and maintain the car library program, while the rent-to-own model associated with the program will ensure that the library has a sufficient supply of cars. I first plan to reconnect with Bill and Miranda, as both expressed interest in my idea and are connected daily with the people that most often face these problems. I would like to meet with a few people that they would identify as the ideal candidates for a pilot program. I will also connect with local car dealerships to figure out what kind of partnership they would be interested in and what price the nonprofit could realistically purchase cars from them for. I would then seek a lawyer to help design the contracts of the library, design the application process, apply for grants, and work through liability problems associated with the charity. Finally, I would seek to gather funding for my business, starting with round 3 of the PioBiz competition in the fall. Thank you for considering the car library today as a way of eliminating the transportation barrier in the Mid-Ohio Valley.
So
Yeah.
when you put together your team, what skills do you think you need most that you yourself do not possess as you start this up?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the connections that I want to have. So specifically, I want to work with Bill and Miranda because the companies that they work with are specifically designed to deal with these sorts of people that need these transportation issues the most. You know, this charity is not going to be possible without some sort of participation from car dealerships, whether they're donating cars or we come to an agreement where we can purchase cars from them at a discount, or the trade-in cars that they give people a very undervalued amount for. This charity requires a lot of help from a lot of people. I do not have experience running a nonprofit. I'm just a college student. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, but I need a lot of help from the government, private citizens willing to donate their cars, donate their money, car dealerships, and unemployment offices.
All of the partners that you've talked about, including the lawyers and so on, often do work pro bono. And so I would suggest that, you start every conversation by saying, you really want to be a partner and get your brand on this awesome nonprofit.
The concept, are you working with Workforce West Virginia to help you out? Are you looking at all types of cities?
I think I would probably start in the Marietta area and first start with working with Bill Wilkinson with his staffing company. I think it would be a smaller scale and it would be less government involved at the outset. He seems very dedicated to solving this transportation problem. As I mentioned with the van thing, he's considered, investing in a large van to help these people get to the employment offices, especially or where they're employed, including overnight workers, because they just don't have those options. I think that he would be a very good partner in working in the Marietta area, and then from there we can expand to the rest of the Mid-Ohio Valley.
I love this concept. As a person who lives in a big city, I've lived around the world, I've lived in and dealt with a lot of third world environments. You tend to forget that middle America has these issues and that, we need to resolve them because we think oftentimes that those are just things that are outside of the country in a third world environment or something like that. And even there, they don't have that type of issue because they have some sort of structure in place to get people to where they need to be. I commend you for developing this idea. I think it's fantastic. One thing that you mentioned was about disabled workers. So do you know what your percentage is of people who are dealing with a disability versus able-bodied worker? I'm not sure if you're talking that you need adapted cars and vehicles, or if this is something that maybe somebody else is going to drive them to work using the vehicle or something like that. Do you have any further information on that particular end of it and what percentage that might be of this actual project?
I don't think I really have any specific research with the disabled workers aspect. They definitely would be part of the Habitat for Humanity model in which the donated cars will be given to them for free. And even if they can't work, there's other issues besides just access to employment. So some numbers that I do have is that there was a survey of cancer patients in Texas, for example, and 38% of the white cancer patients, 55% of African Americans, 60% of Hispanics identified finding transportation as a significant barrier that could lead to them missing treatment.
So I'm going to go ahead and welcome our next group to the stage. We have the shower sleeve coming up.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Devin McFarland. My idea is called the shower sleeve. Here's some information about myself and why I designed this product. I'm a sophomore biology major. Recently, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a cancer of the lymphatic system. And after I had a Mediport put in my chest, it clotted up and caused a blood clot in my arm. So I had to have a PICC line put in my other arm. And my kind of like motto behind this whole thing is called protect the patient. And I'm going to tell you a little bit like what the shower sleeve is and why it's needed. Here's just a few general things, like a PICC line, like what I have in my arm. It's a catheter that's used to deliver drugs for my chemotherapy, and that's to get that throughout the cardiovascular system. It also applies to like common injuries such as like cuts, stitches that you're not supposed to get wet, glue from like a surgical procedure. And essentially the shower sleeve is just a thing to keep your arm dry and keep it from getting infected. I'll talk about who needs this. Obviously there's people with PICC lines, people with open wounds and stitches, and say if they maybe have a skin condition or something like that, they need to keep a certain area dry. Here's the problem that I'm trying to solve. It has to be kept dry because it's a very sterile thing, and the catheter, such as the PICC line, goes directly into a blood vessel. And in most people with like cancer, like me, an infection or a sickness is extremely detrimental to your health. There's a lot of people who, if they get sick, they will not be able to come back from it. So my solution was the shower sleeve. And it's a waterproof sleeve that I designed to keep, like I said, the PICC line, an open wound, and something like that dry. And I have some other things that can also be used. The option one would be a saran wrap with athletic taping, which is what I had to do before I designed my product. Or the option two would be a sleeve that you can buy on Amazon or in a store. With these for option one, the saran wrap, it's cheaper because it's obviously cheaper products such as like athletic tape and saran wrap, which can be bought for like $3 to $4, but it doesn't offer as much of a protection, because when you tape that, there's an open area that water can get into. And the option for option two, obviously it's well designed, but it's more expensive overall than my product, and it's not adjustable. So you have to buy in a certain size, and if you don't get the right size, then you're just out of luck. Well, now I'm going to tell you why I believe my product is better. It's adjustable, so you don't have to worry about sizing problems. And because of that, it can be used up here, down here, on your legs, anywhere that needs that. It's more reliable than, say, saran wrap, which can tear, and say, the athletic tape, if that peels, you're going to get wet. And it's cheaper overall than most products on Amazon. I found, doing some research online, that most products that are using this, they range from $20 to $30, with the lowest I found was $18, which was plus $2 on shipping, I believe. Now here's my cost in production. It cost me less than $5.50 to make. It consists of two simple materials, such as Velcro and a plastic material that can also be found on binders, but can be bought from the stores. The Velcro cost me $7.25, but I can make 3 out of 1 strip, and the plastic cost me $3. I can currently make them from home. They take less than 15 minutes to make. And for value, I can generate that. There are over 1 million PICC lines put in people's arms per year in the US alone. And I believe that I could reach out to these people via groups on Facebook, try to sell them on, say, an Etsy page. And I believe that I could make a good profit out of this and try to help as many people as I can. They're in a similar situation that I'm in.
So, I'm hearing you say, this essentially can be a small household business, as it were, sort of on an Etsy store. I'm also wondering whether you had considered institutional clients, hospitals or medical providers, nursing homes, hospice, that kind of thing, as potential clients, and, whether you'd researched that at all.
I actually have. Obviously, right now I'm in the middle of treatment and stuff, so I do have to go to the hospital quite often. I've bounced the idea off of a few of the nurses and the PAs that I've had to have appointments with. And I've asked them what their thoughts and opinions, and they said if I could find out a way to do that and we get into contact with the right people, it's a possibility that I could try to work something out with the hospital.
Having listened a couple of times to other compelling medical device stories or paraphernalia, hospitals, because of having to go for their own bottom line, don't necessarily have the patient's best interests at heart sometimes. So that would be an interesting sort of idea to pursue. And I'm also thinking just home nurses and hospice and stuff like that as well.
Did you present to us in terms of what your price point would be then? Because it looked to me like you shared with us the actual cost to make the product, which I calculated based on the numbers you gave to be somewhere around $10 each. So if that's not correct, please give me the correct number. But if it is correct, what is your price point that you're wanting to sell that at? And how would it then be different than the lower price point of what is already out there in the market?
My product actually costs $5.41 to make. That's because the Velcro that I used, I can make it into smaller strips and divide that up into 3 separate ones. For what I want to sell it for, I definitely want it to be under the general market value, which is around $15. I'd probably try to sell it for around $10 if I did. In this case, I want to make it something that's affordable for most patients and stuff, because chemo and different types of treatment are very expensive. Obviously, I want it to be cheaper for myself. I want it to be cheaper for other people.
I think it's an incredible idea and it has a use out there. Have you given any thought or consideration to licensing? You're talking about a million people a year that you can touch. Have you considered something to license this if it catches on, that it can become a national product?
I wasn't super concerned with maybe becoming a national product or anything, but in the future, if people think it's a good idea and they'd want it, I would have no problem pursuing that. I'm trying to make it a big thing that could help a lot of people.
I mean, one option I think you could look at for these types of things, you could even look at the Kickstarter or something like that if you wanted to get an idea out. And the medicals, I know. I mean, your program I think is great.
Our final presenter this evening is for the Car Caddy.
I'm Eric Hazley, and I'm a freshman, and I'm currently undecided on my major. I'm kind of deciding on communications or some sort of management.
I'm Nathan Ritchie. I'm a freshman, and I'm a management major with a business minor.
So the problem is, have you ever been with you and your friends or maybe some family members, and your car just gets completely messy, whether you're the one driving or maybe you're the one causing the mess. I feel like this problem has happened to a bunch of people, and throughout my lifetime, I've witnessed it. People make messes in the backseat with food, spilling drinks, spilling other food. Sometimes the back seats, they'll even get cut up over, like with older cars. The durability of them kind of starts to wear away after the years. So you can see that sometimes they might need some protective cover, and that the messes and all this stuff kind of will dirty your car up. So our solution is the Car Caddy, and it combines airplane trays. So if you've ever been on an airplane, the trays that are on the back of the seats and fold up and down, it combines that with nylon seat covers that protect the seats. So this is good for any mess or anything like that. And the trays are good for holding food and other stuff like that. And then the nylon cover will preserve the seats longer and keep them cleaner.
The Car Caddy will have a nylon seat cover. It will have a tray that's supported by a metal frame that runs around the headrest of the seat cover. And the tray itself will be made out of a flexible but sturdy rubber. So if there were to be any accidents or anything, the backseat passenger would be protected and wouldn't cause harm by the tray itself. Key partners would be realtors like auto parts stores and Walmart and places like that could sell it to people who are shopping for their car. We'd want to start out online. That way it's more simple and it could touch more people quicker than starting out at like a local shop or anything like that. It'd be kind of comparable to WeatherTech Floor, how they started their business online. Sales would be through the selling of the Car Caddy itself, and that's where all the revenue would come from. The target audience would be taxi drivers, Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, and mainly busy parents who have to take their kids places and are always in their car and maybe messing up their front seat where they use their car so much. The target audience would be people who are spending more time in their cars than they used to, going to sporting events or trips or stuff like that. Especially this upcoming summer, people are going to be traveling more as the COVID regulations are starting to be laid back and spending more time out of their house and things like that.
We don't know where the future is going, but there's self-driving cars. That technology may be coming sooner than what we expected. So this could be something that is maybe more utilized in the future with self-driving cars because people are going to be maybe sitting in their cars and like eating or something. So this could be good for the future cars. It's just better fitted for the future cars.
The pricing, it'll be priced slightly higher than majority of the competition because of the added tray in the back, but it will be reasonable compared to some of the other competitors. I believe it will cost around $100 to purchase two of them for the both front seats of a car, where the competition ranges from $30, which is usually cheap cloth seat covers that don't protect from liquids or anything like that, to the really high-end seat covers that are designed just for one specific car and don't really have much use outside of that. This will provide a higher value than other seat covers because it gives the backseat passenger a tray that they can eat on or work on or read a book on or anything like that.
Or you were looking at also with the car manufacturers possibly have something that would be built into it?
Trying to avoid that for now because I didn't really want to outsource to the car manufacturers and make that like an add-on to the car. We wanted it to be a standalone product.
So I'm wondering a little bit about the barrier to entry. You know, if you've innovated this and want to get it out of the market and done all this work, how difficult is it not to replicate? So I was wondering if you'd thought about that, Eddie.
From what I've found, most of the seat covers like this just have pockets for stuff. They don't actually have something you can physically set something on. And they do make like a standalone tray, but it doesn't come with the seat cover, so you don't get the added protection in the front seat, which from what my research has found, that's what most people will be buying it for. And then the tray is more of like an add-on bonus for the backseat passenger. It's like a selling point.
From a safety standpoint, would you make it so it would automatically close itself, the tray would, or something like that?
What I tried to do was find a material that would give, if something were to hit it, it would like bend forward together. If somebody were to get in an accident, that it wouldn't go into the person that was hitting it, it would give, maybe go up a little bit.
You know, I'm trying to think of the actual physical presence of this tray on the back of the seat. If it's attached to a cover, how are you going to keep that tray from being flimsy? Is there some sort of structure inside this cover? What are the actual nuts and bolts behind that?
There's a wire, a metal A-frame that runs around the back and then goes up around the headrest, and then it ends right here. And then there's hinges, and then it goes up to the rubber tray, which will bend if somebody hits it.
Market assessment, talking to partners. What would you do next?
Research and development, probably make a more solid prototype so I can get an idea and solidify the materials for the tray and find out exactly how I would want to build it.
The beauty of technology is that we get to look at other things online to see see kind of what the market looks like out there. And what I see right now is that there are trays available, very similar to what you're talking about without the car seat cover, but then you could buy the car seat cover to go with it. And together, those two things seem to be costing around between $40 and $60. How do you justify that $100 price tag?
The quality of the seat cover is nylon, which is waterproof, and most of the cheaper seat covers are just cloth, and they won't repel any dirt or water or spills.
Thank you again to our presenters and once again to our judges. It is not an easy task to be able to listen to the presentations, be prepared to ask good follow-up questions, and to write down their thoughts as they put together their scores. Judges, thank you again so much for joining us this evening and for being a part of our PioBiz competition. I would like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, your professional background, and your entrepreneurial backgrounds.
I'm Faith Knutson. I was born and raised in southeastern Ohio, and my father was an entrepreneur. He was a mechanical engineer at Ohio University, and he did not like teaching. And so he invented something called the free piston Stirling engine, and he started at an enterprise that was later sold 40 years later. So he made a successful business of it. And growing up as the child of an entrepreneur, I swore that I never would be one because it is not very easy to do. Extremely ironically, 13 years ago, I started working for a program, one of our sponsors actually, Tech Growth, that helped technology firms start up just like my dad's business long, long ago. And that was part of an entrepreneurial ecosystem in both southeastern Ohio and western West Virginia that I'm now very pleased to be able to run a program that focuses on social entrepreneurship. So particularly new ideas that focus on social missions in health or environment or education. Many of you had some really, really exciting social problem-solving aspects to your enterprises. So I just also wanted to close by saying that this is the third pitch competition I've judged in the last month and a half. And by far, these were the best put together presentations, the most thoughtful, and you're not even at the final round. I'm pretty impressed. So good job.
My name is Julie Jeffries. I am the founder of Not Your Mama's Vegetables, which is a health-based organization on a mission to get people to eat more vegetables. The purpose behind my organization is actually to attack from a grassroots level the health issues around chronic disease that are impacting not only people in our society, but also our economy through lost corporate revenues and higher healthcare costs. I've been an entrepreneur for many years, but I also have worked in big business. I worked in international business for over 20 years, finishing out at an executive level. I have a political science degree from Marietta with a minor in management. And I went on to get my MBA at the University of Michigan and had the good fortune to not only work in entrepreneurial projects within multinational organizations, but then also on new started, actually funded entrepreneurial enterprises. Now I'm working on my own. And let me tell you that it's much better when somebody is funding your stuff. From a personal fulfillment perspective, when you're doing your own thing and you're impacting other people, I think that that's always the best thing. But if you got to feed your family, get somebody to fund your business. It's going to make it a lot easier. That being said, I'm certified in plant-based nutrition, and I'm about to receive a certification in brain coaching, which is the science behind how your brain works. And the point of that is not only to help people change their habits, but also, I'll be able to utilize that in a business sense of combining the psychology behind how people function, how people think, how people buy, and how people change habits. But also, along with some of the things that are out there that we've talked about today, I have spent about the last 12 years working in the entrepreneurial world of art, both from a sales perspective of supporting sales strategy for different artists, and also partnering with a startup that is actually creating, and it's out there to help people develop the love for collecting art and to create that or to generate a better industry around that. I also happen to be an interior designer and worked for many years in construction as well. So, I also worked for Ford for a while. So, I kind of could relate to all these projects out there, and I congratulate all of you. I think that it's fantastic that you're looking at the world in the way that you are, and that it's even better, Jackie, that you're giving them these opportunities to get in front of people and work on their skills of making presentations and arguing their points. A couple of general things that I would like to share before I cut off because I've spoken too long. I would like to encourage people to really hone in on their financials and also telling us where you're getting your information and sharing with us how large your sampling population is. Maybe try to get a quick catchphrase in there so that we can remember your products. But other than that, great presentations, and thank you for everyone's work on this.
I'm Milt Haynes. I'm the Commercial Credit Officer for Riverview Credit Union. I'm actually a Marietta College alum, so I'm happy to be affiliated with the college again. I've been a credit officer and senior lender for 20 plus years. Additionally, I've had several business enterprises throughout Cleveland and Western Pennsylvania. The ideas that are being brought forward by the students here are excellent. Main thing I can tell to anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur is sweat, a lot of sweat. I contend that's one of the most important things that anybody can put into their business and their concept.
I'm Trace Ross with the Ross Foundation in Parkersburg. We're a family foundation. What we do is fund entrepreneurship and business development. We've supported through our foundation with various programs. I've been involved with the Marietta College entrepreneurship program for quite a while now, and I'm glad to have more and more students get involved in some great initiatives and great presentations.
Judges, thank you so much. I mean, you guys, you made us proud. You made me proud. You made Marietta College proud, starting with freshmen and sophomores and juniors, and just starting by coming up with good ideas. You make my day, my week, my month, my semester, all of that. Thank you so much. Another thing I wanted to say is that the round 3 of PioBiz, that's a big one. That's a $10,000 round. So that's when you have to develop, make sure all of your numbers work out. Make sure that you test the market a little bit if you can over the summer. If you can, there's nothing better than just kind of going out there and doing something in the area that you want to eventually start a business. To help you, we will also have another workshop, this time specifically helping you developing your business plan. And we want to do that soon after that. We have lots of mentors that can help you. Regardless of what the results are right now, you all start at the same level. So you all can compete in round 3. You just have to develop that business plan, and you have to do a little bit more, maybe legwork than others. All right, with that, let me just start with the 5th place. The 5th place goes to Putnam's Palace. Congratulations, River. 4th place goes to Art on the Move. Congratulations, Allison. The 3rd place goes to Shower Sleeve. So you can maybe start producing some more prototypes of some sort. Devin, congratulations. And the 2nd place. So did you hear yourself? Yeah, Sid and Lily? Did I freeze again? I did freeze. Sorry. I don't know what's wrong with my internet.
No, we just sat here and we're like,
I didn't see you jumping up and down. So I just, okay, cool. The 1st place. Austin, stop drinking your water and start thanking us for your 1st place. The Car Library.
Thank you, guys.
You didn't have to thank us. But
No, I have to hydrate a lot during these presentations. I try to squeeze every word possible into 7 minutes. So yeah.
Thank you guys again. I am honestly, truly proud of each of you students, and so thankful to our judges for the time you're giving us as mentors, as judges. Whatever I ask you to do, you usually say yes, and we can't do it without you. Thank you so much, and thank you, Heather. This semester, Heather helped me. As some of you know, I had some eye problems, and the college, they support the program so much that immediately when they found out that I will have a couple eye surgeries, they asked Heather to help me, and Heather generously agreed to help me. I appreciate you, Heather, very much. So that concludes this year's competition, but fall round 3, that's a serious one. You can do it. We can help you. See you later. Bye.